Tēnā koutou katoa. Tūrua ki ngā mate haere 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 atu rā. E mihi ana te mana whenua o Ngāti Toa me Taranaki Whānui. Kia tātou e tau nei, kia ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora and welcome to our May edition of Creative Mornings. I am one of your co-hosts, Christine. I just thought I'd remind people of that because I need to say who I am. Never mind. Our theme for today, or theme for this month, is revival. The lovely Claire, who is my co-host here, is going to read our synopsis about our theme of revival. Kia ora. So, revival. Everything old is new again. This sums up the revivals that bubble up through our culture. Clothing styles, art movements, and all kinds of things come back into fashion decades after the original popularity waned. It's a useful paradigm. Take something old, dust it off, and adapt it to suit the present moment. But are there really no original ideas left? Has everything been done? Does it even matter? New context adds new meaning. You can recycle whatever you want, just make it your own. Lots of things from the past are worth saving from obscurity. What we need is a few more revivals, a revival of empathy and understanding, kindness and caring, a revival of handwritten notes and holding the door open for strangers. Let's pursue hobbies and join clubs instead of optimizing and monetizing every hour. Bring back boredom and curiosity. It's time for a revival of the golden rule. You can distill the best of the past and create a better future. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. And a big shout out to our global sponsor, Adobe. Who's used some Adobe software this week? Who's used it yesterday? Who used it this morning? Awesome. And you'll be excited to know. So Adobe and Creative Mornings have partnered to bring a series of online classes and workshops. You can check this out on the Creative Mornings website. And it's all about leveling up your creativity. And as another reminder, we also have field trips. So if you can't make it every month to our in-person events, people around the world, people just like you, create these field trip online workshops, and you can attend all over the world. And a big shout out to our sponsors, as per usual, Six Barrel Soda for our speaker gift, Libertine Blends for the tea, Coffee Supreme to keep you caffeinated, and All Good Oat Milk for our oat milk. And then we've got Pornicky Bakery and Dough Bakery for our bread and our gluten-free loaf. Bad Baker for the cookies, and 40 Thieves for the peanut butter. And they've got my personal favourite today, the chocolate one, which I see you've all had a good hoon on. And of course, shout out to our wonderful venue sponsor, 257, who gives us this beautiful space once a month. We've got Faye today on the camera, so she's shooting. Are you digital at the moment? And then we've also got films for later, just for fun, mixing it up today. You can check her out on Instagram at Paper People Pixels. That's the right order, isn't it? Yeah. And then we've got Andy today who's videoing the event from Hype Entertainment and Colourcraft for your labels today. And a shout out to just all of our volunteer team who makes you breakfast, helps set up, does all the things, and makes these events happen. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to the wonderful Sneha Pulapaka. Big round of applause.
Kia ora katoa. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sneha Pulapaka. I'm a creative entrepreneur based in Wellington, and I made Aotearoa my home 10 years ago. I'm also the founder of a social enterprise, Native Bloom, based here in Wellington. And I'm here to talk about what revival means to us at Native Bloom. So a little backstory is about the native loom and how it came about to be. Um, so we began in 2018 from Lower Hut actually. That's where I started this small social enterprise, and the idea was to cultivate curiosity and also revive traditional textiles, especially kalamkari style of textile, which is quite famous in the southern part of India. So, a little bit of history is how kalamkari came to be. So the name kalamkari actually means, when you break it down, it translates to kalam, which means pen, and kari, which means craftsmanship. So together, it is beautiful craftsmanship made with a pen. And to understand that, let's go a little back into history. Is very famous Coromandel Coast, which was prominent back in the 16th century, and it was a famous port called Masulipattnam, which happens to be a small town where the trade of the kalamkari fabric had actually begun. This particular port was also famous for exporting indigo, muslin cloth, hence the name Muslipatnam. Patnam as in town, and muslin means the muslin cloth. Also, musli translates to the fish, which because it is a coastal town. And so it's on the southern coast of India, and there was a lot of demand for block printed textile. You might be familiar with chintz, so which was also very popular back in that era. So kalamkari is basically, like I said, storytelling on textiles, and there's two distinct styles to it. One is the block printing style, and the other one is pen kalamkari, which is basically 100% hand drawn with natural dyes. So basically, in originally that they used to depict all the scriptures or the epic like Mahabharata and the Ramayana. So the idea was to tell stories, but as there was a lot of trade that happened in the 16th century, there was a lot of Persian influence on the motifs, and so the motifs changed, and thus came the kalamkari style, which was the block printing that happened, because the influence made the motifs look very different as opposed to what you see here. So here you can see how distinct it is. This is 100% hand drawn with vegetable dyes, whereas that is also vegetable dye. However, it's printed on the cloth using the wooden blocks. And these wooden blocks are specifically made from a special wood called shisham wood, as opposed to some people think it's made of mango wood. But the thing with mango wood is over time it expands a lot and thus may not retain the intricate design. So the shisham wood is quite popular and it's very easy for the artisans to actually carve. Artisans would take for a normal design anywhere between minutes to a very intricate motif to take more than 7 to 8 days to carve on a block of wood. The wood is again seasoned in mustard oil because that helps in retaining the shape as well as the details when you use the vegetable dyes. There's 100% corrosion because one of the dye that is used, the black dye that comes out, is actually a mixture of tamarind along with iron scrap and salt water. So this is a very important, black dye is the most important basis of all the kalamkari style printing, and hence the iron can actually erode the wood over time as you start printing and using it. So oil immersion is very important. So that's how the wood the wooden blocks are cared for. So you might notice we have some blocks here on display, and you might notice there's still a little bit of oil on them. So we are trying to make sure that we preserve it after the use, so that the dye doesn't seep in and it doesn't corrode the surface. A bit about the natural dyes. Like I said, the ingredients of the black dye is actually jaggery, tamarind, along with iron scrap and salt water. So the salt water is basically coming from the estuaries within the Coromandel region. That's why it is famous, and it brings out the color of the natural dyes into the fabric. So if I may just pass on this, and you can see how detailed this particular cloth. So all this is like hand work, and you can see the vegetable dyes that have been used. So the yellow is coming from the rind of pomegranate. The red is from madder root. The black, as I said, is the mixture of jaggery, iron, scrap, and salt.
So jaggery, what is that, a
Plant
plant or a?
is sugar, to break it down. So very crude form of sugar when it comes out before this molasses happens. So that is nothing but jaggery. And in this specific region, there's something called black jaggery, which is very, very specific to this region. So they use that in order to make the black dye. So this process happens for 21 days. The fermentation takes place, and then the black dye is used as the basis for all the other colors. You have mango leaves that they use for the green. And there's also another important seed here that they use. This is Indian plum. They use the powder of this Indian plum to actually de-starch the fabric. So I'm just going to pass around the fabric that has been de-starched, and you can notice this is normal cotton. However, after it's been de-starched, it gets a yellowish tinge to it, and you will notice that is very predominant in all kalamkari style fabric, where you have, in order for the vegetable dyes to be absorbed and retained, it has to be de-starched using this particular seed over here. Running water is very essential because the river water is what makes the washing of the fabric in the river water makes the dyes also bind well. Another interesting thing is there is something called alum, which is used as an astringent. That is mixed in water, and one of the layers of process is using alum in copper vessel, and then the fabric is actually boiled in it. So together it takes about 17 steps to reach the production. So it's like almost 45 days of penance, you would say. Hence, I've mentioned that. So it takes about 40 to 45 days of washing, printing, dyeing, then again washing. So several stages and 17 steps of these. And after which you would get about 300 to 500 meters of fabric, which is printed, which is quite labor intensive, and hence Native Loom is here to help these artisans who are following this traditional art, and they continue to adhere to their traditional generational knowledge that has been passed on to them. So our mission is empowerment of the artisans. Most of these artisans are women, as you can see. So most of them are women, and so they have been trained under a master. So here, this is actually a master artist. His name is Mr. Chandrasekhar. He has been with Native Bloom for the last 7 years, and his entire family is involved in the entire process of production. And he, along with his wife, has trained several artists under him, and so they get together and they make usually saris, which are quite popular. Like the one I'm actually wearing today, you might see that there is a lot of detail in it. This is hand block printed on here, and it depicts the flora and fauna of that region. So there's some peacock motifs on it, which is Indian national bird. So that's why you might find the peacock quite common in the motifs. You might also find some blocks.
So how long you said
The sari
would it take to
make this
make that?
So it would take anywhere between 13 to 15 days. And so our mission is to help these artisans achieve a livelihood, and that we do through 2 ways. One is advocacy. So Native Bloom has been helping artisans at grassroots levels, because all artists are at are part of a cluster, and so one of the clusters that we work with, they have master artisans and they have the newer ones. And so in order to gain some experience, you have to train under a master artist. However, once you have obtained your training, you can register as an independent artist, and you will be receiving a certified, government certified license to practice as an individual artist. So our mission is to help in that advocacy. We ensure that the women artisans know and understand their rights. Also, we help them in product development, ideation, and marketing. So that is the major part of what we do. The other bit is education and exploring creativeness, is what we do here in Wellington via the workshops that we host, and also the artisanal products that the artisans make. So we create a platform for them so that they can support themselves. So here today you will see all the blocks that have been here to be used are actually made by all our artists, and you will see some really old native blocks as well. Let me know if you're able to spot some really old ones, and you should also be able to notice that the texture is very different. And maybe you can tell me the difference, why it is different. Maybe they have been seasoned or unseasoned, perhaps. You can make a notice of that. So we are actually having a POHA donation for the program that we're doing, Threads of Support. Via this, we like to invite you as an opportunity, if it resonates with you, to help us help the artisans reach their community support. I would like to end with a note that is, the seed of the Native Bloom actually was planted when I was a child. I used to look at my grandmother wearing beautiful hand-block printed saris, and my grandfather, who was a chemist by profession, he used to make these lovely soaps. So our house, our paternal grandfather's house used to smell like a apothecary, basically, full of all these herbs and potions. So that I think that seed was actually planted back then, and I felt the urge to understand more about the artisans, their lives, and how we can create impact as I find there's a lot of intersectionality between sustainability, art, and mindfulness. So, thank you for hearing this talk, and I invite you to come and explore the blogs and perhaps find something, a blog maybe that speaks to you. You can help yourself, and I can come and guide you along. Thank you so much.
So, if you're sitting on these front three tables, or the closest three tables, I also invite you to take your chair with you to place it around those closer three tables, because we haven't got chairs out on those ones. So you can pick up your black chair for what we're at.